What up, listener? We wanted to take a second to thank you for listening to this Blue Wire podcast. Be sure to show your support to this pod by subscribing and dropping a 5-star review on iTunes, a follow on Spotify, or the appropriate DAP for any other platform you might be listening on. And if you're enjoying this show, chances are you'll like one of our 75 other sports podcasts. Find more shows you'll love at BlueWirePods.com. Thanks again for listening, and now back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Columbia, this is Houston, AOS, over. Setting up the flag now. Now, you can see the stars.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Knicks Wall podcast. We've got a supersized edition here with you today. The four greatest Knicks commentators known to man, I like to believe at the very least. I'm Anthony Corbo, but more importantly, I'm joined by Kyle Maggio.
What's going on, everybody?
You can give him a follow at Kyle Maggio on Twitter. Also going down the line here, we've got at Cortez Era. Mike Cortez is here with us.
Hey, Stevie, go get your fucking shine box.
And coming to us once again, making his return to the show, I have the one and only Brian Gibberman at Brian Gibberman.
What's going on, Palace?
To be honest, Brian, I thought you were going to come out and hit us with a little bit more heat before the beginning of the show because I received word today, and I believe it was first reported by SNY's Ian Begley, but Steve Mills is no longer no longer a member of the New York Knicks organization. He is somehow retaining some kind of position at Madison Square Garden, so I think a chair position. And all of a sudden, one of the biggest asks that we've had since really, going back into the moment that the Knicks failed to land either of Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant, it's been, kind of looked upon as Mills being the weak link here. And then especially after the signings they did make and the atrocious season that the team has had so far, it's been probably the single greatest demand of Knicks fans this season that Steve Mills been fired. And today, February 4th, we get our wish 2 days before the trade deadline. And yeah, Scott Perry is the interim president. There's we'll see what happens. He might end up retaining that title. There may be a search for a president, maybe a search for a new GM. It's kind of all up in the air right now. We've heard some names out there, but let's get you guys' initial reactions just to Steve Mills being gone. Let's go with you, Maggio. Where does this stand on your moments of Knicks moments of the year?
Well, it's the best one. Let's not beat around the bush here. Let's not pretend otherwise. It is the best one. This is our championship. This is our Super Bowl. This is our Larry O'Brien trophy, and it's a sweet, sweet day. I really, it's not everything, right? I mean, we know we want like ownership changes and things, and we understand like it's not really going to happen, right? But the one big thing that we always complained about was like just stop having the yes men in there, like the clear guys that are always present when things go wrong with the franchise. Maybe they shouldn't be around. And every time he came around, he was always basically for the worse. I have some stats here I'd like to read off about his tenure, which are, I don't know if you can guess, really spectacularly bad, and only a Knicks kind of way, So in the 3 years before Steve Mills, when we traded for Carmelo, and even though it was clunky, we were sort of on an upward trajectory, you know what I mean? 3 playoff appearances, 132 wins, 98 losses. Steve Mills comes back into the picture. We force Glenn Grunwald to do the Barghani trade, and then we fire him, right? And, Steve Mills is back in the picture. 7 years later, 0 playoff appearances, many lottery appearances, and a 178 win to 320 loss record. Steve Mills' legacy, everybody. It's bad, man. He stunk for God knows, so many reasons. It's just nice that we got one win, like one guy that we wanted out of there. Like, I don't know who they're going to hire next. I know Scott Perry's the interim, president right now, and he's got to manage this deadline. This is something they should have done a long time ago if we wanted to complain about something. But I'm going to take my victory today. They fired Steve Mills. Like, it's like the king is dead. Like, it just feels great. Like,
it is.
Oh man, like I feel like the tyranny was overthrown. It's what a feeling, man.
So I want to get Mike's thoughts on this real quick, but I also want to just quickly, because I forgot to mention at the top, we're part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Go check out our sponsor, Bet Online. More about them later. Got a little ahead of myself. The news is a little too exciting. But Mike, we're on to you now. You were pretty active on Twitter, kind of the minute after the firing happened, right as soon as those reports are coming out from Woj and Begley and everyone. Just where's your head out now with Steve Mills being out, Scott Perry being the president?
Kyle, what was the record for Mills' tenure again? How bad was it?
Don't worry. I'm glad to pull that up for you, Mike. Give me 1 second. Happy to. My pleasure. My pleasure. And the record was 178 to 320 in 7 years. 100.
Just disgusting. Just disgusting.
I mean, it's
just absolutely disgusting.
It's almost purposefully bad.
The amount of suspense and filibustering for that was so worth the payoff.
It was good. That was one of my better moments. I agree. I'm just happy.
No, but seriously, excellent. I mean, yeah, I think this is shaping up to be the best February since 2013. I mean, we're undefeated. Steve Mills is gone. And we're officially going to trade Marcus Morris and the rest of the vets. So it doesn't get much better than that. Excuse me. So Perry, I'm surprised he's staying, but my thought is he's going to be president. Houston's going to be tried out as GM. We'll see how that goes, I guess. They can't really screw up things too bad since the D'Angelo Russell trade never really had traction. So I feel like they can't screw up much. But, I mean, Mills had to go. I mean, I've been saying it all year, same as everybody else. He's been the constant in everything bad about the Knicks. And, if someone could point me to one thing he did right, please. But the guy was just bad at everything. So, good.
I will say that if there's anything that I love about this particular podcast, and definitely not about Steve Mills, it's that, we just really enjoy throwing in obvious sound effects that we could put in post, but just do them over the microphones instead. And now, Brian Gibberman, give me your 2 cents here on Steve Mills being out as president.
Originally, I was happy and excited, and for the obvious reasons why, but in the end, I kind of realized I'm just kind of broken, and just, it's like, they have to do something right for me to, like, everything. What does it matter? Like, I was going to play air horns, but, like, the Knicks haven't earned the right for air horns. They, like, what is this?
If there's any moment that's deserving of air horns this year, dude, this is the one.
What is this? What's going to change? Like, they have to. He fired Phil at the right time, or not at the right time. He fired Phil when Phil needed to be fired, and that didn't fix anything. He has fired Mills. Every person they fired, the next thing, it just ends up being wrong. So for this to matter, the next thing has to actually be right. And the Knicks haven't given us any indication that we should believe that what the next thing they do is right. So until I see that happen, I'm just going to assume it's not going to be right.
Do you think that an Allen Houston promotion is the right answer?
I have no idea. I don't follow the Knicks G League team. Allen Houston has never been in charge of a team before. I have no idea what his basketball acumen is. Like, trying to figure out what people are going. It's just hard. Like, I have no idea what Allen Houston would do if he was the
I
GM.
bring him up only to kind of back your point up here too, because, like, there's no real, correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see any real reporting about Allen Houston being in the mix here today or anything like that. Like, obviously he has the assistant GM or he is now the full GM of G League, whatever it ends up being. I think everyone's kind of expecting the Knicks to make a very Knicksian move right now. I think they're kind of expecting them to go that route of just promoting Perry, moving Houston in the front office and then just kind of, essentially putting a PR Band-Aid over the situation. But there's something about this that feels a little bit different to me. There's something that feels like they are going to consider outside candidates. And you kind of saw that too when there was reporting over a CAA agent being potentially, one of the candidates that could be in the mix here. It's kind of, I'm really conflicted that this is finally the time when we're going to see some kind of rational basketball being, decisions being made. I mean, we obviously don't know how much of Perry was responsible for the moves that we've seen so far, but now is kind of the chance for him to prove that, he can turn this thing around. Fresh blood would be really good. The only thing they have to really, really try not to do at this point is go after that big name president, that, that kind of like hype machine, like essentially that was Phil Jackson. It's at this point, like Masai Ujiri is not Phil Jackson. He's the name who keeps on coming up a bunch too. And Masai Ujiri obviously has championship, presidential experience when it comes to this kind of thing. And he's been able to assemble those teams like that and everything like that. So he is the big name versus what the big name was in 2016 when Phil was coming around. But we finally have a big name that has some experience and some ability and maybe might be willing to, have some interest in this role. I'll ask you guys if you guys think that Masai Ujiri is an actual candidate here at this point, but I want you also to let me know what do you think it's going to take? What's the draft capital that we're going to have to give up to try to pry a guy like that away from, the defending champions? It seems like it's going to be a pretty steep price.
Yeah, people are saying both Dallas picks. I think it would have to take that and maybe one of the Knicks. I mean, if I'm the Raptors, I wouldn't want Luka's draft picks. I want the team that never knows what to do. Draft picks.
So I'm looking back, and when I'm looking at the Doc Rivers Clippers situation with the Celtics, and it says here the Clippers will send the Celtics a first-round pick in 2015. The sticking point had been that the Clippers wanted the draft pick to be lottery protected, but the Celtics ended up getting their wish as the pick will be unprotected. And the Clippers will take over the contract of Rivers. That was it. So that's why I don't know exactly what. If it was, listen, this is just my thing, and everyone's gonna yell at me. But if it was like both the Mavs picks, I'm fine with that in a heartbeat. Because Masai with 2 less picks coming here is fine. Like giving him 5 picks in 5 years is fine. Like that's nothing. You know what I mean? I don't know that that's what it would cost, but like I'm just trying to think of the number where I would be like, no, okay, that's too much. Like, probably like what? 3's pushing it, 4, you're like, all right, man.
I wouldn't want to give an unprotected 2020 or 2021.
Yeah,
like unprotected.
If you're going to give up,
7 protect,
multiple picks, I think that the protections are fine. You're giving them value, and the number there, you're giving them a little bit more. So you're not just going to fork over 2 unprotecteds, obviously. So,
Boston's 2 draft selections in the 2015 draft were. It was R.J. Hunter was the later one, and Terry Rozier was the first pick they had. I'm not sure which one of those was originally belonging to the Clippers, but so let's kind of put that into perspective. Like, is Terry Rozier obviously wins out in that discussion, but is it essentially worth, let's say, best case scenario, Terry Rozier and some other pick that could probably be valued around that same amount? Like 2 Terry Rozier, say, is that worth it for the Knicks to get Masai Ujiri?
Well, that's assuming they would take a Terry Rozier. Don't forget, the Knicks aren't great drafters.
Well, yeah, but I just mean, like, to put it in perspective, like what the Celtics were able to get from the Clippers, like at that point,
Yeah,
that's
100%.
Yeah, I think that even 2 at that point, like, it's definitely not super far fetched. Like, and like we're saying that, Dallas is probably going to be somewhere around where that Clippers team ended up being around in 2015, maybe with a slightly lower ceiling to them, but. You're ultimately looking at a similar value, especially at that point, like what players are going to be available. you're dealing with, I think the picks aren't going to have a ton of value at that point, and moving it for somebody who can like truly run the ship effectively and has like the respect around the league, like which is what the Knicks lack the most right now, is got to be the most crucial play you can make with those two picks. So we can dive a little bit more into the whole, we can dive a little bit more into the mechanics of this in just a little bit. I'm sure it'll come up as we start talking about some trade targets. But on the topic of first round picks, we've had a former number 2 pick, D'Angelo Russell, has been getting batted around a little bit all day. And we're recording this on Tuesday the 4th, it's about 7:00 Central Time right now, 8:00 Eastern. So we are, this could change pretty quickly between now and by the time this episode ends up coming out. But as of right now, D'Angelo Russell is still being linked to the Knicks. And there seems, when people are tossing around trade, discussions, it seems like the Knicks, we'll have the salary match and we'll be able to figure that whole thing out. But it's in terms of value and what they're being sent back that's really getting a lot of people up in arms. And I kind of wanted to discuss with you guys so the Knicks are going to have a pretty high pick, presumably, if the lottery plays out in their favor in this upcoming draft. Is that pick expendable in a D'Angelo Russell trade? Just straight up, I want to know.
Depending on how high it is. I think.
Well, let's say you had to move it this week.
Oh, this week? Yeah, sure. Nobody's it's not Ja and Zion at the top. So I would live with passing on trading Anthony Edwards, for example, for D'Lo.
I mean, I would, just because how many times we're going to take stabs in the dark here that don't work out on these draft picks. Like, we're going to have Perry, who really we don't know is a great evaluator of talent at this point. Solid at best, we can give him, okay results, middling. I don't know. I mean, that's about it. But I just think at some point you gotta just get good players, man. If that's what it takes, D'Lo is 23, he still fits the rebuild. If you keep most of the young core, like an RJ or a Mitch, I mean, to me that's worth it. You're getting 24 and 7 a night. Takes 50% of his shots from deep, shoots almost 40%. It's pretty damn good, man. That's worth a first round pick, especially when it fits your timeline like that. Versus, and I would love a Bradley Beal, obviously, but versus a Bradley Beal about to be on a supermax, an older vet like that, to me, it's easier to sell. I'm getting a 23-year-old who was just an all-star, just in the playoffs, putting up better numbers, improving year to year. He's doubled his free throw rate this year. I don't know. I mean, to me, that's worth it. That's good value.
I don't mind the player, but I don't think the interim GM should be making a trade for a big money salary player like that before a full-time GM is hired. I think you have to put a hold on that, and you want to give the person who is taking over as clean of slate as you can. So having money locked up in Russell isn't where I would go at this moment.
See, but I'm the clean slate narrative is getting a little bit, well, and not so much a clean slate narrative, but just the idea of kind of clearing the books and trying to give the Knicks as much flexibility. I don't know if it's just I'm getting jaded on this process or something like that, but it's just I'm kind of the opinion that I would rather just start trying to take on guys that are at least moderately proven to to kind of give us the boost that we need, give us at least a little bit of something to reason to watch this team. I agree that I obviously it's tough because you want to say championship should be priority. You want to try, while the Knicks are relatively, still flexible in this moment, and to have, assets on their side and all that, you want to try to give them the best window to a championship as possible. But at a certain point, you just got to make this team watchable. At a certain point, I just want to see a playoff team on the court again. And I am willing to make that move for D'Lo because I believe that he will get us probably not closer this season, but I think in the longer term, and ultimately if that doesn't look as good, I feel like he is still he's earned respect as a player throughout the league enough that he would be valuable to some teams, and there would still be the potential of being able to get value from him if you did have to move on from him again. But I just feel like even though they have the money on their books like this, I feel like the price of acquisition right now wouldn't be outrageous for me. Do you think that the Knicks would be confident enough and maybe maybe pulling something off that they could send their first round pick this year and maybe some combination of Dallas picks or future picks or whatever it might be, and Julius Randle to the Warriors and pick up D'Angelo Russell?
The Warriors do not want Julius Randle.
Well, but I mean, can you sweeten the pot enough with them? They obviously don't. But can you?
No, there's nothing. The Warriors are not eating into their money next year to take Julius Randle. There's no way.
Even if they get 2 lottery picks this year, they would have 2 high lottery picks this year.
No, they're not taking Julius Randle's money. They would have to get. They're getting 2 first-round picks without taking on any bad money. Why would they want to take on bad money, a player that doesn't fit how they want to play? And that's the problem. Like, even 1 pick, like the Warriors are holding out. They're making the T-Wolves go out and get them 2 picks. It's just you're adding money. You're getting rid of draft capital. And for a player you don't even know if the next person who's coming in is going to want on the team. The next person has to make that decision. If Scott Perry is the next person, fine, let him make that decision. But right now, you shouldn't be sinking that type of money and draft capital into someone you don't even know the person who's going to be hired.
Right, hold on. So I just got the Mark Stein newsletter in, and I just scanned quickly to see if there was any Knicks notes, and lo and behold, there's a Masai thing. So he says 2 longtime Masai watchers whom I trust deeply for their reads on the situation have been telling me since December, when the Knicks fired head coach David Fizdale after a 4-18 start, that Ujiri intends to maneuver his way to the Knicks after his moves helped the Raptors win a championship last season. Both watchers went so far as to proclaim that Ujiri may even try to bring along Bobby Webster, Toronto's well-regarded general manager. One told me he is convinced that Ujiri's relationship with the Toronto team owner, Larry Tannenbaum, is such that if the Raptors would ultimately bless the move, that the Raptors would ultimately bless the move if Ujiri wants it badly enough. It's basically come down to if the Knicks would want to give up the draft compensation. So,
not doing it. Nope. I'm pretending like that person you just talked about doesn't exist.
I mean, if it's not unprotected this year, sure.
Yeah, man. I mean,
I have no problem with it.
I mean, at that point, when we're talking about like a front office role, like I probably wouldn't want to give up this year's pick because it is going to just be too valuable and too high. Like, even if the Knicks don't even end up using it, like they're still probably going to have a high lottery pick this year. But beyond that, like, I'm giving up pretty much like any piece of and just about as much draft capital as I can to bring him in.
Yeah, I would give up a top 3 protected 2021 because Cade Cunningham is probably the guy you want next year. So I would give him as much as that. And as Masai definitely fits like the gravitas and everything there, but I'd rather just wait and see if Morey could come for free. I'd rather have someone like Daryl Morey.
Yeah, I mean, who's available right now? Like, not about to be, or maybe Hinkie for sure, right? Like, what's the actual? Because I would obviously prefer to not give up draft picks if there's other capable GMs out there. I don't think that's a thing you have to do. Like, I don't know, but who would you guys want? Like, what's the short list here? Like the 2 or 3 top names. It's Hinkie. Who else?
Morey's at the top of my list. Morey, because I feel like Morey's like on the outs. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna can. I think I would see like a parting of the ways type of thing, or he definitely wouldn't carry nearly as much capital as Masai would, because the Knicks kind of destroyed their leverage already by saying Jim Dolan has a hard on for this guy.
I don't really have a short list. I think Morey is probably there. I think that Ujiri is definitely at the top. Like, those are the 2 safe bets to me. Beyond that, I'm kind of like of the opinion that I'm not super opposed to the whole idea of bringing in, promoting an agent into a GM position and, keeping Perry as president. Like,
Yeah, who would you guys even want under that? I mean, I know was Austin Brown was thrown around.
I'm kind of fine with not knowing right now. I'm kind of like letting that kind of progress a little bit. Like, I'm cool with them wanting to do a regular kind of job search for this. Even if it takes into the off season, like, I really don't mind it as much. I'm not in as big of a rush to get someone in here unless it's one of those like two dream candidates like Ujiri or Hinkie. Or not Hinkie, that's or Maury.
Yeah, either way, you're gonna have to wait till the postseason's over anyway for those guys, or whenever their team's eliminated. So, as long as we have somebody by draft time, I don't want
That's very true.
Perry to draft again, and then new guy comes in, he doesn't like him. Then we have the Frank situation, part 2.
I can't believe you guys, after the KD Irving stuff last year, are letting yourselves do the Ujiri thing.
Oh, I don't believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, it's not going to happen. I'm saying I would personally, if it was like a pick to get one of the better team builders of the last decade and a half, I would do that personally. I understand people that would disagree, but that doesn't mean I think he's coming. Of course not. I mean, did you see some of the names?
His name should be.
Did you see some of the names get tossed around? I mean, Rich Kleiman's name's up there. I saw that from New York Post. So, our boy Rich.
Can you fucking imagine?
Yeah, I mean,
it would be perfect Knicks. It's like a year after
Begley
KD's
reported
free
who else earlier?
He just said some dude named Roger Montgomery, who's an agent.
Yeah.
I have
So I mean, they're looking like this play. They're looking like the
A
player
said-
agent route. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Stephen,
I'm fine with not knowing any of those names yet. Like, I
honestly,
I really don't mind that because I like that's kind of where I want to clear the deck and have the clean slate model going in. Like, I don't want to go with a traditional Knicks crony. Like, I don't want Allen Houston going in there because I feel like that doesn't make our front office any more credible than it was with Steve Mills and Perry in there.
I just don't care. Is that weird?
Stephen A mentioned who's the Nike guy? What? You don't care?
Bro, like, it's so hard for me to be like, yeah, like I have strong opinion about guy X because like
it's just turning another pick.
Because like it almost never happens the way I want, right? Like, we're talking even about a situation that I don't prefer, but I would still do in giving up a pick from Masai. But it's like none of these things are gonna happen. It's gonna be some like Scott Perry-ish kind of pick. We didn't know too much about him the last time, other than his last couple of stops. Like, I just feel like that's gonna happen all over again, and then we're gonna be like, all right, well, that's the guy. I don't really know much about him, man. Let's see what happens. Hope for the best. Oh, okay, that's who we took in the draft. All right, well, here we go. Like, I feel like it's the same situation again. Like, it's a waiting
We
game.
can talk about some things that definitely will happen in a minute, though. But first, I have to tell our loyal listeners about our new sponsor for this week. Did you guys out there miss your chance to bet on the Super Bowl? I mean, I bet I lost hard. If the 49ers would have had a chance to kick that field goal at the end of the half, I would have hit for my halftime, one of my halftime boxes. Still upset about that, but fear not. Blue Wire is excited to be partnering with BetOnline to help you win big no matter what time of year. It's not just Super Bowl. We've got March Madness coming up, the Masters, Major League opening day right around the corner. BetOnline has you covered for all of your latest news, odds, and scores. Plus, it's never too early to lay down your future bet for Super Bowl 2021. Head over to betonline.ag and use our promo code BlueWire to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. We signed up, it's super easy, and if you're already making wagers, it's a fantastic way to support our podcast. Again, that's promo code BlueWire, all one word, when you sign up at betonline.ag. Bring your best bets home with BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. So one of the effects of the firing of Steve Mills today is that apparently Marcus Morris, who was previously untouchable, is now available in trade conversations. I think all of us on this podcast have been really pining for Morris to be made available to try to pry an extra pick out of him. And, that can obviously, as we were just discussing, be used in a bunch of different ways that could help the Knicks improve both this offseason and beyond. And Morris is having a good season. He's shooting like 44% from threes, the Knicks' leading scorer. Like, he's having a good year. And it's kind of made the Knicks want to re-sign him. And maybe that was a Mills play, and maybe Perry is not feeling as great about that. So there are some options out there. There are some potential suitors for Marcus Morris. I think we can kind of all just go down the line quickly and say that, yes, we're very much in favor of trading Marcus Morris.
Correct.
Of course.
Yeah, good to go.
Of course. I mean, we all like him as a player. It just doesn't make sense.
It's been a fun half a year with him. Like, he's been probably the only thing that's keeping this team fun, at least watchable. Fun is certainly a stretch. But what do you think? Where do you think his value sits right now? Like, I've been hearing him go into the Lakers a lot as a potential move. There's some talk about maybe some lower end contending teams might want to bring him in for a little bit of a boost. Like, potentially someone like the Clippers could be interested in something like that. What do you think realistically it's the market for Marcus Morris is going to end up looking like? Like, is it going to be the first that they kind of want, or are we going to have to settle for like a pair of seconds?
I think we can get a first round. Like, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to get a first round pick. I'm not saying this lottery shit that the Knicks are trying to get, because I think that's a little bit ridiculous, but I think that they can get like a late first. I don't see why they wouldn't be able to. Like, that seems like a very like straightforward transaction. Like, am I crazy? Like, it just seems very easy. Like, isn't that almost directly what his worth is?
Yeah. If they're going for Kuzma, why don't if Perry's a good GM, he'll do this. If Kuzma's available for Morris, and the Kings were willing to take Bogdanovich for Kuzma, I mean, do I really have to connect the dots here? Why not get someone that's good and can help this team? They're not going to do much with those first round picks, but in a pinch, I guess we could get it. But that's where my focus is with all the.
I'm kind of on your side with that too. I think that going for a player who's a little bit more of an impact, someone who can make a direct impact versus having to wait like 2 or 3 years to develop is going to be the move. I mean, Frank Ntilikina is the greatest example of this. Of just not this team, this city, this fan base is not going to have the patience to sit by too many more draft picks and let them develop as they continue to lose. You kind of going for somebody like, somebody who's just a little bit more established, like a Bogdanovich or even a Kuzma, if they end up with one of those two, like, that's not a bad place to be placing your next, to be putting your next move and instead of just constantly, batting at draft picks and hoping that you finally get lucky with one of them.
I don't think Kuzma is bad, but I'll take a pass on that. He's fine. I'd rather get the blind dart to throw than take Kuzma. The Clippers, I would try to get Shamet. I don't know if they'd give him up, but he's a guard who can shoot and would be a pretty interesting fit next to RJ, because you let RJ handle the ball and then Shamet can play off it, and then Shamet can also handle it a little bit. So that'd be good. I wish the Nuggets needed Marcus Morris. They have pieces I would be intrigued by, but I mean, they have, once Millsap gets healthy, they have Porter Jr. They don't really need that kind of hybrid 3-4. They got plenty of guys that can play there, but they have all sorts of young role players that I would love in a package for Marcus Morris that I think would be a somewhat reasonable trade, but I don't see the need there.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know why the Clippers really covet him. Like, they're the ones that keep coming up that like they really want him. So, I mean, I'd rather just get the pick from them. I know they still have picks, right? I mean, you got to be able to give us something. That's about it. I mean, Shamet would be nice, but he's kind of a big piece there as a role player, so I don't think he's going anywhere. I mean, I'm cool with the pick.
Well, they said they're shopping around Montrezl Harrell too, so I mean, I have a feeling they're a little less hesitant to.
Was that confirmed?
Roster.
Montrezl was confirmed or no?
Confirmed. I don't know who had it. I just saw his name popping up.
Oh, well, that'd be pretty
I
interesting.
mean, and the Kuz thing too. Like, I like Kuz. I think he gets a lot of unnecessary shit. Like Brian said, like he's fine. He's like a solid NBA player right now. He's still young too, but I don't know, man. Like I would be okay. I would be okay.
think
I
it's
would be
Kuzma, the
okay with
character,
it.
that
I'd be
gets
okay with
people
it.
off.
Like I think I like rooting for him here. Like he can score. Obviously, everyone wants to talk about defense all the time, but our offense is always dead last. Like we need guys who can actually score, and he does carry a little bit of that upside. I'd be fine with it, but again, if it's that or a pick, like yeah, I'd prefer the pick. But
All right, what do you guys think of this? For the Clippers, we get Shamet, Jerome Robinson, and Harkless, and a pick, and we give them Trier and Morris.
Run that by me again.
We get Shamet, Jerome Robinson, Harkless, and a pick, and the Clippers get Marcus Morris and Alonzo
What's
Trier.
Harklett's contract looking like? Is he just
It's
this
an
year? Or is he next
expiring.
year?
Yeah,
Expiring
take
deal.
that. I mean,
It would just be
Yeah,
a
I mean,
matchup.
yeah, in a heartbeat.
Because Trier still gives them. I mean, Shamet's better than Trier. I'm not trying to say that, but Trier still gives them scoring off the bench, which they would lose with Shamet.
little too similar for like him and Lou playing together wouldn't be. I wouldn't like that at all.
Oh, fair.
Yeah, you would need a potential elevation of Lou Williams at that point. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely feels like a little too good to be true on the Knicks side of things, but like that's the kind of deal you go for in a heartbeat. Like, honest to God, even if they didn't include the pick in there, like, you know,
Yeah, I think Shamet's good enough to take that.
yeah, I'm
period.
fine with that. I would be, if they called up offering, I would be trying to put together a couple of combinations to get Shamet, because I'm pretty in on him.
Would you do your trade with Dotson instead of Trier
Yeah.
makes more sense?
Yeah.
I'd do that. Yeah, I still do it. I was just thinking more just because they wanted a scoring guard, but yeah, 100%. Because Dotson, we're not going to, I mean, if we do resign him, we're just going to let him toil on the bench for
I mean,
half a
that's what
season
I'm at.
anyway.
Like with the guys that were rumored to be giving up, like that's why I didn't understand why people were like up in arms about the initial D'Lo package, even if it had the Mavs pick in it. I was like, what do you guys like? We're getting rid of like all the garbage we have. We're getting rid of a couple expirings.
Yeah.
Dotson, I like Dotson. I think he's useful and should play all the time. But the Knicks clearly do not, because they play him for 2 week stretches and then he disappears. So
Is Dotson more valuable to you than Kevin Knox right now?
yes, because he plays good defense and he shoots.
Right.
He
I don't know
shoots
why
threes.
the Knicks aren't playing it.
Low
Like,
usage. He goes off ball. He hits a ton of threes. Not a ton, but I mean he's hitting threes at a good clip. Like that's a useful player. Like someone's gonna need him somewhere. You know what I mean? Like
I feel
Kevin
like
Knox.
unless
Like,
you're
who needs a Kevin Knox other than because he's 20 years old?
I feel like unless you're a complete standout, like the Knicks are just going to, like, if you're a second round draft pick, like the Knicks are going to treat you like such until you leave the team. Like regardless of how you play, like Kevin Knox is always going to get more minutes over Damian Dotson. It's frustrating as hell.
Well, I want to see what they do once RJ comes back, because the only reason Dot's playing a lot now is RJ's out,
Right.
which is ironic because I think Dotson would play really well next to RJ. So that's why it's like, I think
The kids are gonna play.
I hope so.
I think.
It just makes sense. And with the D'Lo trade, everyone was thinking so finite, where it's like, oh, that's it. That signals the end of the rebuild. We still have another max slot. He's 23 years old. Like, what is better on the roster right now than D'Angelo Russell? He'd be our best player since Melo.
That is where my head is at with it right now too. Like to me, it's not as much a question of maximizing our value as much as like just, having some, getting some value in the present right now. It's definitely not the most forward thinking plan, but it's about, I mean, at a certain point, enough's enough. Like you got to take more proven shots than I guess, than throws in the dark or something like that. But, so we're getting close. Obviously this episode's going to come out and then the trade deadline will be upon us. We're likely, unless anything major happens, not going to be talking to you all before that. So, right now we still have guys like, Bobby Portis. We still have guys like Elfrid Payton. We still have, and then, guys like Dennis Smith Jr., Frank Ntilikina, those are some of the names that are definitely out there, on the trade market, and they're all on the team right now. And they all have very different reasons to be traded and very different values. But of that group right there, if you had a most likely to be traded or packaged, who would you say? Let's take Marcus Morris out of the equation. Of Peyton, of Portis, of Dennis Smith, and of Ntilikina, which of those four do you think are most likely to be traded, Mike?
Portis, for sure.
I think Portis, if anybody, but I don't really think. Is it weird? Like, I don't think Alfred's getting traded. I don't think they have any intentions of trading him. Like, he hasn't even. Has he even been rumored?
He really should go.
Has Bobby even really been rumored?
No.
No, it's been real quiet on their front. So that's what's kind of worrying me.
So that's why
I like
Bobby was mentioned before.
But he seems mentioned as like an obvious guy that the Knicks aren't going to want around next year, rather than him really having any value. Like, Peyton's at least shown to have some value, and just his sheer frustration in the last couple of weeks, like other than that triple-double he had against the Cavs, like, has been, it's been shown. I mean, he just got suspended last week too. Like, you would think the Knicks would be trying to move, or you think there would be some kind of mutual, trying to move away from each other at this point. But that's really been strange to me that his name is not out there at all.
If we do a Marcus Morris trade with the Lakers, I would try and push for Elfrid Payton to be in there because the Lakers could use him. They have Rondo's corpse running around out there and Alex Caruso. They could use any type of guard with skill. And as much as I don't like Elfrid, he is decent and they could use him. So I would just push him out the door. And but Portis was rumored before, I think like a couple weeks ago, they're like playoff teams were interested in him. I was like, really?
I could see the Rockets taking Portis to be like a 15-minute off the bench guy who does nothing but shoot threes. Like, literally, if he steps foot inside the 3-point line, someone runs in off the sideline and hits him and makes him go behind the line again.
I mean, but that's the thing with him. In theory, he makes sense. Like, in theory, the thing that he's capable of doing, it makes sense. And you go, oh, because that's what we said. We were like, oh, well, we need some spacing. He's a big who shoots, he shot like 40% from three with the Wizards. Like, that could work. Like, because it is like, I mean, that's objectively good if he's doing it constantly, as you just said. But like, in theory, it's good. And then Bobby in the actual games is different. So like, I don't know. I mean, if someone takes him, that's their issue, if he buys in or not. But that was kind of my issue too. Was like, that's kind of what we wanted here, and we didn't get it. That's why we liked Luke Cornett last year, right? That's why you loved him. I mean, because he spaced the floor as a bench big and shot threes.
He protected the rim too.
But my frustration with Portis is not even because of Portis. It's more of the coach putting him in wrong times, where Portis is playing instead of Mitchell Robinson instead of with a lot of times. That's where my frustration came. As a player, like, if you didn't tell me he was making 15 mil and he played without sacrificing Mitch's minutes, I probably wouldn't have a problem with keeping him. But the fact is he does, and if another team like the Rockets or any other playoff team could use him, go.
The fact that Bobby Portis gets paid as much as he does still pisses me off as a noted Bobby Portis hater. He like you said, like, he provides everything of Kennard, but without the rim protection, which is probably honestly what Kennard was most valuable for. I think maybe somebody like Houston might like to give him some run, especially just as a size replacement for Capella if they end up moving off of him. I mean, that one is definitely interesting to me. I think that I have part of me thinks Bobby might be a buyout cabinet or candidate. Part of me just feels like he's going to be gone, and he's like everyone else might be traded, everybody else might be bought out, whatever. Like, he's going to be the one who lasts to the summer and is just let go of. Like, I have a feeling we're not done watching Bobby Portis all season long, and he's just going to be, he's going to be a thorn in our side while we're trying to play these young guys and at least try to give Randall some minutes while he, to try to get him into form after what's been, largely a pretty lost season for him. It's going to be kind of fascinating. I mean, I haven't heard Taj Gibson's name coming up at all, so I'd imagine he's going to be sticking around. I mean, I hear there was more Dennis Smith chatter earlier in the late like in January rather than I'm really hearing like this week leading up to it. Neil Akina's name's pretty much been out unless it's it's part of a larger package for someone like for one of the larger stars. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Knicks are going to make a move or two, especially with their transition here away from Mills. But I don't think it's going to be fireworks by any means. I don't really see the D'Lo thing materializing. I think it's just going to be maybe picking up a later first for Morris, and I think that's going to be the move that they're going to make here.
Do you guys think Randall gets
I
traded?
also want to see what happens with Monk.
Oh, sort of the same way.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I was saying. I don't know. The Hornets thing was interesting.
I wanted to ask you guys this question before we get out of here. So we sort of argued about it earlier in Slack, right? About what that rumored disagreement between Perry's and Mills might have been. And the first player that was brought up was Marcus Morris. But, do you think it was Julius Randle maybe? Do you think it was Terry Rozier coming back in the deal? Like, it's very possible it's from that deal too, and not, a Marcus Morris related thing.
Well, when was that report that he was coming out of MSG upset?
Sunday.
That was what, Saturday? Sunday? The time matches up. I don't know. But Randall seems like a Perry guy, like big school.
I think that's going to be the move that they're going to be a little bit hesitant to move on. Like, I feel like they've made their big move here with firing Perry. I feel like or firing Mills rather. I think that they're going to do something about Morris now, and like those are going to be the moves. I feel like moving on from Randall right now is going to be like a big shocker, but yeah, maybe it could be what Mike's saying. It could be exactly the opposite. Like, we really don't know right now who was largely responsible for the signings over this past summer.
Yeah, I would hold on to him just to possibly build up his value. His value's not cratered, but it's kind of like where Dennis's is. It's just really low compared to where it could be. So I don't see any rush in getting either guy out of here. Might as well just try and build them up over the second half. And who knows, draft night, there's a couple guys in the low end of the top 10 or even the teens you can make a move for. So I think we should look a little towards that more so than the deadline. I think the deadline should be Morris, Portis, even Ellington if somebody bites on that. I think he's a buyout guy, though. But, yeah, those type of deals.
Yeah, time will tell what actually ends up going down, though. So our last couple of minutes here, do you guys have any last second takes you need to get off before the trade deadlines, or anything that's just kind of clawing at your chest to get out at this point? Like, do we have any hot takes, or do we think that kind of the status quo is what we're going to see here, within the next 2 days here? Are we going to get a 1 a.m. trade, I guess, is what I'm really looking for.
I hope not. I hate when that shit happens. Then I wake up and I'm confused and just wait. Just wait. Dude, have some decency. Yeah. But I don't think anything happens. I really buy that they're not going to move Mook. If they want a lottery pick, this is just like when they were asking for the moon for Frank after they wouldn't play him for a month. And I don't think Mook's going to get moved. I don't think Randall's going to get moved. I think, if anything, one of those fringe guys might get moved. But we also kind of felt that way last year with these expiring guys, and nobody got traded. So I don't know. I don't think anything's going to happen, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I'll take Morris gets traded.
Go for it?
I'll go there. Yeah, I think Morris gets down.
I'm on that wavelength too.
I'd like to see it.
I think it's going to happen. I think we might actually get our wish this time. Well, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see at this point. What I do know is that we will be back for all of our listeners very soon to give them as much analysis, as much breakdown as we can about any pending trades, anything that, and I guess just where the team goes for after this trade deadline. Like, we'll have a lot of more answers, and I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty big week. So I think everyone needs to stay tuned to the knickswall.com. Stay tuned to our amazing writing and, fantastic staff. Mike Cortez is one of our finest writers that we have. Do you have anything that you put out today? Anything you got coming up in the next couple of days?
Yeah, Thursday, just a broad, like a very macro outlook of who you should pay attention to for March Madness. Just super like general type of stuff. But yeah, Thursday.
Yeah, and we got our, we'll have the return of our annual draft season podcast coming up real soon, so don't think we've forgotten about that. In the meantime, also make sure you're at the Knicks Wall, at TKW Podcast on Twitter. Follow all of us. All of that will be in the description. Make sure you check out Bet Online. Next time you're looking to make the game a little bit more interesting for yourself. Big trade deadline primer. A lot going on. Big day for the Knicks. We'll see where it goes from here. We'll talk to you all next week.